Okay, when Pluto's in the angular houses, these are houses where you're trying to be somebody. You're trying to be yourself, your own identity, first house. You're trying to be a status or have honor or be I'm going to be a wheel someday. I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to do something. I'm going to be strong in the world. I'm going to be married. I'm going to find the person. I'm going to be married, or I'm going to be secure, have my own home, be close to mom, have my family. So you have these areas. We have these areas that we're driving naturally to get in our life. When you meet someone, they're the four questions you always ask them. What's your name? Your ascendant. Where do you live? Fourth house. What's your number? Are you married? And what do you do for a living? These are the four things you check with anybody. The first four things you're kind of checking out. So if Pluto's there in any of these angular houses, you're projecting it. You're pushing a little more intensely. If it's in your fifth house, you're pushing your identity more intensely. There's a bit of fear. There's a bit like, I have to do this, and you're doing it. But there's a little bit more severity there than someone who doesn't have the Pluto in that house. And it's your projection on your image. So you're going to be a little more intimidating and that to other people because you're wound up in yourself. And that fear is there, or that block is there. Doesn't mean you can't function. It just means you have an intensity around your own way of doing it. It's not going to be so smooth socially. And where Pluto is, you're not going to be so tolerant of a facade of any sort. It's got to be what's real, what's not. This is with me, this is against me, this is there, what's there. It's not going to be easy. There'll be challenges. So on the ascendant, too strong an identity. I have to control. You're going to be with me. You got to follow this. I got to do it this way. I got to do that. It can still be too controlling that way. And the other person, why do you want? Well, what about me? And it's different. So the Pluto will be in the first house. It will oppose the seventh house. If Pluto were in the seventh house, you have the fear of lack of marriage. I have to be married, or I'll never get married. I'm afraid of anyone. And because you're afraid, you marry the very person you're afraid of. And you get the power struggles and the confrontations around trust, around sharing. I got the person I want, but he just uses all my money. He never makes any money, or she doesn't do this, or we're together, we got the family, but she never wants to sleep with me, or like there's going to be so many different types of blocks, but they're going to come from the partnership and from the sharing. And one there, you need almost therapy to work through it. But if there's an unfairness, at some point, it'll tend to be perpetrated, and you've attracted. You see the abuse or situation coming in a relationship, then you look at the chart, you see it's there, you realize there was a predominance of this, or a tendency to go towards this from birth. And this is actually actualizing someone in your life, something in you that's playing out that you're going to have to deal with. Why don't you leave a violent or an angry person? Well, I can't get out with all the kids. I can't leave the kids. There can be so many different realities around it, but the blocks will come around being either afraid of the relationship you're in or in control totally of the person you're with. We got to control this, we got to do this, we got to do that, or afraid of sharing. So some, like the Pluto and the ascendant can be alone because they're too intense in themselves, or they can be married, but the person has to be catching up to them and following them, the Pluto and the ascendant. But in the descendant, it goes the other way. The other person's it's too important. I'm either afraid of love, or I've got to hold on to it, or they can be controlled by the other person because it's happening to them. So when Pluto's up in the 10th house, that's about status and career. That's blocks. That's power struggles with authority, with your own authority, with what you have to do it, with the government, with the systems, and you're going to be fighting it. And like, it's going to be hard to find a boss that you would ever like. You'll be people in control. I want to replace that guy. I got to control that, or they're controlling me, but I need the money. I need the status. How much do you have? It's like a hazing ritual. There's a power struggle going on around career. Finding the job, I can never do that, or I have to do that. Now I got there. I can never let go of this. So it's an over control. It can be very useful in business, but it's not going to be compassionate. It's going to tend to be on the harsh side of things. If everybody doesn't make their $500 a day minimum, you're fired. Or like it can be really controlling of how to hold the team together. Too severe. So that's it. Pluto tends to be severe where it is, and it takes therapy or work, or sometimes Tai Chi can center out anger. Sometimes singing can remove an emotional block. There's all kinds of things you look at. How do you heal? To learn to play with it, learn to get around it or get through it. So you got it, but you don't let it be negative fear in your life. Fear is not acceptable. Fear and doubt technically is the devil that goes against God or belief or faith. So this fear, so if you have it in 10th house, that's fear and blocks with authority figures, father, or people are telling you what to do, what you have to do. It's always going to be a battle to prove something. And if you get there, say you want to be a cop and you go be a cop, and you get there and you find out there's dishonest people in the police, how do you take a stand? What do you do? You know, power struggles. If Pluto's in the 4th house, the house of home and security, you're afraid of security. There's violence and fear and blocks at home. You weren't the wanted kid. There was power struggles at home. You weren't secure. There were fears around, and it affected you very deeply. Now you grow up and you're doing things anyways, but then nobody's may see that unless they come to your home or try and live with you. And they realize how blocked up this is and how it's, I gotta have a home, or I gotta do this, like I gotta have some kid to get married, or I gotta have a wife and get married, like I gotta have the home, I gotta be there because I don't want to go anywhere else. I get home, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm afraid of going out. Or someone else could just be being out because they're afraid of coming home to face things. But it's difficult. It will not be easy wherever Pluto is, whatever house Pluto's in. There'll be challenges, and you're afraid to deal with them, but you have to deal with them. When you don't deal with them, they'll pile up and there'll be confrontational consequences. If you deal with them, you're having to struggle to have to take care of that too. You may have to do, okay, if you're dealing with it, you and you deal with it well, you go right into it, you stop the old things. Like I knew one girl, young girl, well, I knew her as an adult, and she'd been raped by her uncle. And she had tremendous blocks. She was gay, and she had tremendous blocks and fears. And her therapy involved having to go confront the uncle and tell him that in front of other people and let people know. Well, at the same time, she could have been killed for that. But she was terrified around it and took 2 or 3 years of working with therapy, and finally she was able to do that. Of course, she got disowned and whatever, but she at least brought it out of her. So where you see Pluto, you know there's going to be some confrontation, some fear, some block. You don't know what it is. You can't presume it's going to be this or that. You have to observe, ask some questions, find out how that other person is, how they're dealing with that area, and then they'll come into it. They'll say, well, I got my home. Well, what did you have to do to get the home? Was there a trade up or something else? Or like, how do you get along? If you got the home, how do you get along with your parents? Well, I got my home, but I hate my mom. I'd never want my mom to be in my house or whatever, or my dad. Like these phobias or blocks, it's see, as weak as it can be, as weakening and diminishing as Pluto can be, as unempowering as it can be, when you've faced it, it's just as equally empowering. I dealt with that. I'm not worried about that. I faced it. I'm dealing with it. Let's get on. It's just there's somewhere where you're losing innocence and something comes in that causes this fear and loses the innocence and makes a certain harshness in your life. Once you've dealt with it, you can go and deal with other people who have that. You can survive. You can get on, and it can make you stronger and stronger because you don't have that fear in that area anymore. It's there, but you know how to come to it. You faced it. So this is, I mean, when we're working with Pluto, I teach these classes in stages, really, because this stuff is heavy responsibility. You can't just talk to somebody about this because you trigger off some deep, intense block and bring out some of the biggest fears without knowing how to deal with it. You have to have people prepared to know. You have to be talking to them. They have to have a rapport, and you have to have a sense of what they're doing in their life and what's good for them. And then you can see what's blocking it, or what things are interfering with it. I did a Tai Chi class, staying Tai Chi for years, and even after about 10 years, I was trying to do this one move, and the teacher kept coming up and moving my arm a half an inch. And I was doing this for 6 months. It was driving me crazy. I'm working on it. I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it perfectly. And he keeps correcting me. I get so mad, I stopped going to Tai Chi. So I stopped going to Tai Chi for 3 or 4 months. Maybe it was 6. In that time period, my relationship ended. Everything blew up and fell apart. I'm on my own. After 6 months, I got to go back to Tai Chi. I go back. I'm doing the move. I had it perfect. The block was my emotional block in my relationship that was falling apart. Those fears were interfering with my body being able to move properly. And as long as I was thinking about it, it couldn't work. As soon as I dealt with it, that wasn't an issue anymore. Wow. So this is how my takes on Pluto, you know, and how to work it. So, we haven't gone through this. So when it's in the succeeding houses, they're the houses of having things and using it. So the blocks and the fears are about what you have or what you don't have, and the fears about what you don't have or what you have. Are you afraid of what you have? Like in the world today, everybody's afraid. I got my property. I'm afraid of all the immigrants. We got to close off the borders. We got to stop it. We can't share because I could lose what I have. Basic Republican or conservative attitude. Not everybody, but it's just there's different political swings. Anything liberal now is like, oh, it's taking. Why would we help anybody else when we're having trouble with ourselves? It's a really harsh time in the world. But when the people who have things and are having to use things, when Pluto's there, they're going to be very harsh or very controlled about what they have. A fear of it, a fear of having it, a fear of losing it, a control once you have things, and a need to fight for it because it could be threatened. That's the fear. So when it's in the second house, you can be really talented but be afraid of your talents. I can't do that. I won't do that, but I have to do that. You know, like that struggle's there depending on at what age you are when you finally decide to do it. Some people are really talented and they're never encouraged by anyone all their life, and they're 60 years old and they start taking music lessons and they love it, or they start singing in the choir and they love it, and they say, why didn't I do this all my life? I was never encouraged to. You know, it's so facing your own blocks. Now that can be a fear about money. It can be blocks. I gotta have this much money, or I'll never get this much money. I have to get this. I have to use this. I can't get all this. I can't work. I can't. And it creates a shadow around your use of your resources. That shadow is not noticeable. It's just normal for you. It's only noticeable when you start interacting or sharing resources or trying to use resources with other people. You see, whoa. Other people are very quick to be spontaneously, here, we'll put money for this cause or that cause, we'll do money. Pluto in the second house would not be very quick to do that. They'd have to do an audit on the resources, whether it was worth it or not, or whether it was real or not. Or even, so they might be over-controlled about spending, or really power hungry. I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to use the web, I'll be a millionaire by the time I'm 20 or 5 or something like that. I got to use it, and they get into that. But really it's the fear and the power of money. I have to use money for power. I have to get it. Like, if I don't have this, I can't do this. So there's some kind of block that's there that they have to overcome. So when you have the Pluto there, the block may not be getting money. If you have nothing, it might be, I'll never get that. But if you have money and you're afraid of using it, or if you have talent and afraid of using it, you might be having to spend it or having to use some of the things you want. You could have $1 million in the bank, but if you've never taken a holiday or used it for something stupid, what good is it? Use it for something interesting or fun. So you have that, and you're going along your own world like that. You get married, and suddenly this attitude becomes a big attitude. How come you just control your money and never share anything?